Coming to you from Israel in the land of the Galilee. You've probably heard about that in the Bible. So, we got very exciting things to cover today. I'm going to show you why it looks like the attack on Iran that's found in Jeremiah 49, referencing Elam, which includes Iraq and Syria, is probably extremely soon. As I told you, if Biden resigns from the race for president, they're going to call for his immediate removal out of office, and that's widespread now. Hannity, Fox, the major news channels, members of the Congress, it's going wild. Obama is also now pulling away from Kamala Harris and wanting to find other candidates. This could be a ruse. In other words, they explore other candidates and then come back and say, oh, she's really the best one or the most qualified. Or it could likely be he means it. He probably means it. Obama might have had meetings with Kamala and doesn't like her position on Israel because she stands for Israel, out of her mouth anyway. And it's kind of up in the air what Obama's real motives are here, but it appears rather imminent to me that Biden will resign, or they'll Article 25 him out of office for being incompetent mentally or physically or ill, whatever they want to call it. And he'll go out with honors and his pension and glory and all this stuff. They won't impeach him. That would make Kamala the president and the Speaker of the House the vice president. And a coalition has been formed consisting of Egypt, Jordan, UAE, and Saudi Arabia, plus other unnamed nations, which I would think mandatory include the United States, the UK, Italy, Germany, and perhaps a few others, in addition to possibly India, and we're going to cover all of this. And the Houthis, or the Houthis, however you want to pronounce it, in Yemen have declared that the gloves are off, there's no red lines, they're going after Israel whole hog. Which is, at this point, verbal. So we're going to go discuss all this stuff, and we're going to go through the scriptures on Iran being attacked. And the thing you need to remember here, and I've warned you about this for some weeks, is the alibi or the cover story to attack Iran is likely not going to be Israel or just Israel. It's going to be nuclear weapons, and now they are saying officially that Iran is no longer months, years, months, or weeks away from a nuclear weapon, just days. So the attack on Iran will be very fast. And you got to remember, Biden no longer has anything to lose in popularity because he's not running for office. So we're going to get into all this. I'm going to go. And we're going to use Bible prophecy where relevant. We're going to discuss the daughter of Babylon and lots of good stuff. So I'm going to go into the chat right now and make sure we got sound and picture, and then put a few fast posts up. in the live stream chat, give people time to come in, and then we'll get started. So stick around. I'm going to develop all these stories for you. And we got sound and picture. And let's see what's going on in the chat. America's falling apart, truly. If people post obscenities or nasty statements in the chat, I have no problem with you reporting them. It's just up to you. I'm going to throw the garbage out and block these people with the stupid posts right now. They're not here other than to harass us. If anybody that I know is not getting audio, would you please let me know? The people that are saying there's no audio, I don't know them from a hole in the wall, and it's an old trick. Yeah, I figured it's fine. Let's get rid of them. I don't know who they are. Okay. Yeah, they come in twos. Yeah, I have audio too, so there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just throwing out the garbage. Okay, I'm going to put a couple of quick posts up in the chat. It's not going to take very long at all, and then we'll proceed. I can't talk too much while I do this, because then I make typos and it takes longer, but it's going to be fast. And it's only fair to give people a chance to come in. They get the notice, and then they got to see the notice, and then they come in. So we'll give them a little chance here. It's not in the general news that they have this coalition formed. It was a little bit of a surprise to me, and I'll go through some details on this. Now I'm putting my email address up in the chat, and you can email in prayer requests. Give me the 2 initials of the person you want the prayer requests for, and you can put them up in the chat, or if you want more privacy, you can email me. By using the initials, you give more privacy to the people that we're going to do the prayer for. If you want demon toss requests, you can do the same thing. Okay, just an announcement to the hecklers. When you post these nasty remarks like cowboy, old man, grandpa, stuff like that, I block you. And what you may not be aware of is when you get blocked so many times, and YouTube from different chats, they block you from posting in any chat anywhere. Maybe your own chat you can post in, but that's it. Okay? So not only am I going to block you, the people are going to report you, and that goes against you too. And then you'll wind up for 30 or 90 days not being able to post in any chat. So go ahead. And they'll probably block your IP address too, so you'll have to get a proxy that YouTube hasn't blocked. Good luck with that. And then create a new account and all that. So if you want to go through that, go ahead, be a wise guy and come in here and harass us. Okay? We know why you're harassing us. Okay, being a Bible-believing site, I'm going to do some praise, and I have no control of you joining in or not joining in. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, well, I got to check the messages. It could be coming from our local militia in the community. It's not. Okay. So the other day we attacked Yemen in a big way for that drone they flew into Tel Aviv that wound up killing one person and damaging an apartment, not the whole building. And we devastated what is referred to as a state or a province in Yemen, you know, like Florida or Texas, something like that the Houthis control, the terrorists control. We knocked out their electrical grid, and now they've patched in electricity from surrounding communities, so they have some electricity anyway. I don't know how much, and I don't know how many hours the electricity is on. It may be on for 6 hours a day, it may be on for 24. We don't know. I could probably dig into it, but it's not that relevant. We destroyed their fuel supply tanks. We destroyed their oil refineries in that area, which hurts them economically severely. And we created a lot of fires and general destruction, and now for a few days the fires are still burning. That we hit this port, and we hit the cranes in the port that are used to offload containers and items from ships to the shore. Now, this port was used to receive 80% of the weapons coming in from Iran, and this port was generally used to launch attacks on ships, like unmanned boats, and boats with Houthi soldiers on it and stuff like that. Right after we did that, a day or so later, the Americans and the British attacked another port in Yemen. Now, this you don't hear about too much in the news, but it is true. And I don't know the full extent of the damage, but they didn't do it the way Israel did it, but they probably created damage. In other words, they could have hit the cranes, the pier, I don't know yet. Okay? So Israel started something that caught on. Now, why are people mad at the Houthis? Because they've interrupted maritime or merchant marine ship traffic in the Red Sea, and the estimates vary depending on the time of what month you look at, but it's probably fair to say 80 to 90% of the traffic going through the Red Sea is no longer going through the Red Sea. They're going around the bottom of Africa, which adds 5 to 7 days to the trip, increase the cost. The cargo just sits on the boat longer, and that's money lost. The crew has to get paid. The ship cannot haul other goods and make more money. It has to spend more time doing this. The cost of the shipping goes up. And Egypt is particularly peeved because they get a substantial part of the money that they run the entire nation of Egypt on, with toll revenues from going through the Suez Canal. And that's gone down 80-90%. The ships that are passing through the Red Sea are most likely ships from countries friendly to the Houthis, like China, North Korea, Iran, Russia, Belarus, and others. I don't know who they are, maybe other Arab states, I don't know. And they probably announce the passage of the ship a couple of days before to the Houthis and wait for a confirmation, and then the Houthis give them a clearance, and then they keep the transponders on, and they don't get attacked. They would pay the tariff to Egypt, and when they go up near the Mediterranean and the Suez Canal. So a lot of people are very peeved at Israel, and they're very happy that Israel hurt that port. The Americans and the British still have these social policies about how to conduct a war, so I doubt they did a very serious attack, but they may have done some strategic strikes on the actual piers, the cranes, the different facilities to take cargo off and things like this. They didn't attack any fuel supplies or electric power sources or anything like that. And I expect we'll see more attacks like this as the days go on. It's an effort to shut down the Houthis so they don't keep attacking ships. After our attack on them, they tried to launch some more weapons to Israel, ballistic missiles and drones, and nothing showed up. They said they attacked the port at Haifa. They must have said they attacked the port at Haifa 5 times so far. They haven't. Haifa's a large city, maybe 750,000. It's built sort of kind of like San Francisco, where you have like Nob Hill, Telegraph Hill, Russian Hill, Pacific Heights, and it looks down over the water. And if there were attacks, all these people in Haifa would see the port smoking and hear the explosions and nothing. Nothing. Okay? You could drive by on streets near where the port is and see the port. Nothing. They're making it up. They're making it up. So, Saudi Arabia now announced, which is yesterday, I believe, it's early morning here in Israel, it's 9 o'clock-ish. They said that they will shoot down drones, missiles coming from the Houthis towards Israel. So they are basically finished with the Houthis. And the Houthis have had wars with Saudi Arabia and are threatening Saudi Arabia, as is Iran. Just for some basic information, the Shiite nations in the Middle East near Israel are the ones attacking Israel. Okay? The Shiites do not believe in kings, dictators, emirs, or any of that stuff. Okay? They feel the wealth should be distributed equally to the people. Of course, they don't practice that in reality, but that's their party line. Okay? So the bad nations, Hamas in Gaza, does not have a king or a dictator, but Hamas takes the role of that. And some of the leaders of Hamas are Richard and Donald Trump. And there's many that are just low-level millionaires with $20 or $40 million, okay? And they're basically defunct. They're not functioning. I mean, occasionally, sporadically, they could get a drone or two or missiles off, but it doesn't do any damage. The number 2 guy in Hamas, Dave, is in fact dead. So now Sinwar, who's living underground for many months, like Nasrallah is, are, not happy, let's put it that way. Hezbollah in Lebanon is not run by a dictator or a king or an emir. Neither is Yemen. Yemen has no king, dictator, or emir. Neither does Iran. Neither does Iraq. which is basically a 75-80% puppet state of Iran. They don't 100% do everything Iran tells them to do, but pretty close. And then we have Syria, where Iran, of course, keeps troops and equipment. And Syria is a dictator, but they need Syria to get close to Israel. And they probably would just get rid of Bashar Assad, the dictator or president of Syria, when the time came. But they need him, so they're using him. And he needs them. Russia also has a small amount of troops there. Russia has a navy base in Latakia on the Mediterranean in Syria, and a few kilometers inland they have an air base. They don't keep a tremendous amount of assets there at all. Russia does have some of their military police on the Golan Heights border with Israel. Russian soldiers are on the Syrian side of this. Okay, so the Iranian Shiite regimes are intrinsically against the countries with kings and dictators, which would be in the region: Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan. Egypt does not have a dictator. They run a democracy. And Egypt does not get along with Iran, and there's several reasons. One reason that's deep-seated and long-term is the fact that Egypt is under constant threat of the Muslim Brotherhood, which are kind of like soul brothers to Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis. So Egypt's got a knife in their back that these clowns will overtake the country. And that puts them close to Israel, of course. So Egypt's not a fan of Iran, who is friendly with the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, so that's one problem that Egypt has. Number two problem is the Iranians use their puppet, the Houthis, to shut down the Red Sea, which severely impaired Egypt's cash flow. Severely. I mean, it's a major portion of their gross national product. It's huge for them. And they lost most of it for months. So their position is Iran doesn't give a hoot about us. Iran's a threat. So them joining the coalition to defend Israel means that the Houthis cannot. Now, it's the Houthis' forces were 163,000, and then 30-something thousand the Yemen regular army, which is in cahoots with the Houthis. And they say another 200,000 terrorist fighters from Iraq and Syria came in to Yemen. I don't know how true that is. They say anything that comes into the head. It's probably not true. Probably some came, but not much, and they may have already left. So they are threatening to send convoys, which would be lots of infantry soldiers, trucks, Humvees, personnel carriers, artillery, mobile missile pod launches, anything, Send the big convoys up to get into Gaza to save Gaza and attack Israel, or just attack Israel. So to get to Israel, they were talking about going through Africa. Well, when you get finished going through Africa, you wind up with Egypt, who borders Israel, and Egypt is against them. So they lost that entrance point, okay? Going up near Eilat requires them to go into Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is not stupid enough to take a chance and let a couple 100,000 of these clowns come into Saudi Arabia because they could likely just turn around and say, well, wait a minute. We've already invaded Saudi Arabia. We can go deal with Israel anytime. Let's conquer Saudi Arabia. We'll rape their women. We'll torture and kill their men. We'll steal their wealth and riches. And we'll move into their palaces. Saudi Arabia knows that. They're not going to do it. And Egypt has the same problem if they let them in. They turn around and say, well, we're in Egypt. We already invaded Egypt. Let's just overthrow Sisi and we'll take over Egypt. And then we'll go get Israel. Or we'll take over Saudi Arabia and Egypt and then go get Israel. You know, this type of scenario. Jordan is, you know, Saudi knocked down missiles coming at Israel with the big Iranian attack a couple of months ago. And so did Jordan. So Jordan's in on it again because they'll get rid of him. Okay? He's in close proximity to Israel. He has a borderline with the West Bank and other parts of Israel. So they'll get rid of him, lickety-split. And there's a lot of factions, terrorists and stuff inside Jordan that want to get rid of this king over there. He's on thin ice, so he's in on it. The UAE, of course, where Saudi goes, they go. They're very friendly. So the UAE is in on it because they're afraid of Iran. And, you know, so that's what we got in the Middle Eastern countries, plus other countries in the coalition. Okay? Oman has not kicked in with them. He's like at like where the Persian Gulf runs into the Indian Ocean. He's like over there. And it's a king, and he's not in. I don't know why. First of all, this guy doesn't have much military to start with, you know. And he may join in. He may be waiting. Will Pakistan join in with the Houthis? They say they will, but I don't think so. Will India join in? And this is a possibility because India has suffered attacks on shipping in the Indian Ocean even. That the Houthis expanded out there, so did Iran. So they're peeved. For a while they sent 10 warships to the Red Sea, but then pulled them out. So India could join in this thing, and they have a massive military. I don't know if they will. India has a habit of doing what's good for India, period. And Modi, the head of India, may decide that this is a good thing because of what these clowns did to the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean and the Sea of Aden, and now they want to do the Mediterranean. And, you know, it would really interfere with India's commerce. See, the end game with this is that the Houthis and Iran would start charging tolls to every country that goes through the Red Sea, like Egypt does. They just say, hey, you know, give me the value of your cargo, we'll inspect it, we'll give you a price. And they all know that. The other thing is Iran wants to control the oil. Now, who has a lot of oil in the Middle East? Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan has some oil, and Egypt has some oil. So if they could get these people to listen to Iran, if Iran could get these people to listen to them under threat of duress of war and civil war and all that, then he starts telling them, well, Iran starts saying, cut your production down 10% this month, next month, another 10%. Every time they cut it down 10%, oil will spike. By the time they cut it 30%, oil would be, gasoline would be double or triple at the pump. And that would wreck Europe, America, South America, you know, many countries. China and Russia don't care, because China gets a sweetheart deal from Iran with, you know, nice priced oil, and Russia doesn't need their oil, they got their own oil. So Iran could break the West economically, but not just a little. It wouldn't be recessionary, it would be depressionary. 1930s America were very bad. People wouldn't be able to afford to go to work. How many people in America or Europe could afford to go to work if gas doubled or even tripled or quadrupled? Not that many. And then the fares for buses would go up. Ships use diesel, that would rise a lot. Trains, they use diesel, that would rise a lot. Home heating would rise. Everything would wreck these countries, and that's what Iran is trying to do. And then if countries want to come into the fold of Iran and play nice to Iran and, you know, dance to their music, well, then Iran sells them oil at reasonable prices. So Iran imposes a massive threat on Europe, America, and other countries. Got it? A regional war in the Middle East, which I would say has begun, would endanger the flow of oil, and that's something America and the EU, NATO, and all that, they don't want to see. So the alibi story is they officially are saying Iran is days away from having nukes. Days. The GPS in Iran is now being jammed. I'm not sure who's doing it, Israel or America, probably America. That means that, you know, there's a lot of problems for their defense, you know. Attacking Iran is child's play. You gotta understand, Israel showed the world that a few months ago. It's not hard. They have no air defenses. So what they would start attacking is the 5 nuclear facilities that Israel attacked about 2 months ago and took out their radar. Didn't attack the facility, just destroyed their radar. Now, did they rebuild the radar? I doubt it. So that means the jets can come in relatively undetected on a corridor aimed at these nuclear facilities and blow them up. Now, that would turn the time clock in the eyes of the public back a couple of years for Iran to get a nuke. However, Iran isn't going to be a happy camper if their nuke facilities get blown up, and they will retaliate. A land invasion in Iran is rather difficult. In perspective, 10 being the hardest, 1 being the easiest, it's probably about an 8. The terrain is rough, there's caves and mountains they can hide in. It's going to be hard to move tanks around. They have a reasonably large army, and they could be unleashed on the invaders with a lot of casualties. It doesn't look like that's a plan, but they don't need it. Air attacks would do what? Well, the first thing is if they attack the piers where the oil is loaded onto tanker ships, well, that's the end of the Iranian economy, isn't it? Sure it is. Then they could attack Iranian naval vessels, including 1,500 and or more go-fast boats, which are small boats. They vary in size, probably between 60 and 80 feet. They go quite fast, and they can launch a torpedo off the deck, so they have to steer the boat at the ship they want to hit, and then the torpedo goes off the deck into the water. It's very World War II-ish. And they usually put a 50 caliber on there. Maybe they have 20 millimeters, but I think it's predominantly 50 cal, which can damage a ship, but the hulls are too thick to, even with armor piercing, I don't know if you'd probably get through. So, I am expecting an attack on Iran very shortly. Everybody knows Iran's behind what the Houthis are doing with the Red Sea traffic. Israel showed them that it's easy to attack Iran, and it's easy to attack Yemen. They watched it. And right after we attacked Yemen, America and the UK attacked also with a feeble attack. But that could have just been one of their, warm-ups to give their Air Force, some more experience on hitting strategic targets like a pier or a port, I should say. So they're going to cripple the Houthis. I don't think they're going to bother invading the Houthis, because when you take Yemen out, the Houthis fall apart. And not only do the Houthis fall apart, Hamas falls apart, Hezbollah in Lebanon falls apart, and the Iran-backed militias in Iraq and Syria fall apart. Now, I would be expecting more attacks on the American bases in Syria and Iraq any day now. And they also hit the embassy in Iraq, which is, these guys, and worked in the embassy. There's great big underground facilities there where there's multiple layers of corridors with blast doors. And in the facility, they have communications of some sort. They probably have a way of getting internet, although the invaders could knock that out. They have to have generators to get air. They could be electrical, or they could be who knows what. They have beds, they have food, they have medical, they have everything they need down there. And the idea is not to live in the underground bunker, but to go down there till help comes. And help could be a day or two away, and they could even go probably 3 to 5 days easily, or a week. But it wouldn't be that long. It might be, 6 hours, 12 hours, 18 hours, something like that. But the embassy is not a real high-value target. If the embassy gets destroyed and the people get killed, all they're concerned about is that the top-secret documents get destroyed. Now, you guys might know this, but places like embassies have safes where they keep highly classified documents. And these safes have a burn capability. So if you try to break into the safe and you don't do it in just the right way, there's combustible material in the safe that will ignite, and it burns up everything in the safe with a very hot flame. So they're not that worried about their classified documents. They would be worried about hostages, because that would be embarrassing. But that's a risk. And when you go to work in the State Department, you're going to get posted in lousy places in your early years, like Iraq or Niger, which they just pulled out of, or other countries that are not a lot of fun to be in. And then as you get seniority, you could request postings elsewhere, and then you get out of those things. But when you become a senior person, there has to be managers there, so there's a small amount of senior people stationed in a place like Iraq. I don't believe there's any embassy in Iran. Quite sure there's not. So the attack would start with taking out radar. If the Iranians rebuilt the radar that was destroyed by the nuclear facilities, Israel took it out once, they'll take it out again. We have Delilah missiles, which are basically modified cruise missiles, which can be carried on aircraft. They pick up the radar signal and they fly down the path of the radar signal to the radar and blow it up. We have used these in Syria, and they're quite effective, and they work well. That's the end of the radar again. Our stealth jets can do that without risk. But America has this capability too. The radar goes and the nuclear facilities go. The amount of people dead would be minimal. To get the nuclear facilities, which are to a good extent underground, they're going to have to use heavy bunker buster bombs. America has bunker busters that go up to 24 or 25,000 pounds. I have no idea what something like that would do, but it would probably, to the people underground, feel like an 8.5 earthquake or a 9 or something like that. Now, maybe their underground facilities, which they say are 300 feet down, they may not be. They may only be 90 or 100. We don't know. Might sustain the first one or two of these bunker busters, but after they weaken it up with these big ones, they just revert back to the 2,000 and the 5,000 pound bunker busters, which would eventually cause the structure to collapse and cave in and be the end of it. I'm reasonably sure they could accomplish this just by using 5,000 pound bombs, which America has a lot of. Just repeated bombings. See, these structures can only take so much percussion, you know. Eventually they're just going to fall apart. Something like a Star Trek show, you know, where Worf says they're being attacked by the Borg or the Klingon or something, and it says shields down at 60%, then more attacks. Shields down at 30%, more attacks. Shields down at 12%, more attacks. Shields are gone, hull breach. Sections blah 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 are penetrated, And that's very much what it would be like for the people in these nuclear facilities underground in Iran. Of course, they don't have shields, but eventually their support and the structure would start caving in, it would be over with. And once it starts caving in, then the power would go out, air supply, and all kinds of stuff. And they might not have a way of egress or getting out. So they die. Why would Biden all of a sudden do a thing like this? Well, you got to remember, Biden no longer has anything to lose. He's more dangerous now than he was last week. Every time you see a president finishing their second term, it gets horrible because the jackass doesn't need to get reelected. So, Biden might be sitting there playing that old 1980s song, which is a takeoff on, I think it's the Beach Boys' Barbara Ann, singing a song about some girl. Saw Barbara Ann at the dance, thought I would take her a chance and ask her to dance. Well, they've modified that song to go Barbara Ann, Barbara Ann, Barbara Ann. When Iran did the revolution, hang on a second. That was the guy giving me a quote to fix my shower. The water control handle in the shower broke off. And I gotta turn it with my fingers and it's not easy. So anyway, you see, America knows it's not Hamas, it's not Hezbollah, it's not the Houthis, it's not the militias it's in Iraq and Syria, it's Iran. And they got to cut the head off the snake. The Pentagon knows that. I'll be right back. Quick break. Now, let's assume I'm going to make myself one of my tomato juice cocktails, which has no alcohol. let's assume America does hit Iran, and they start with the nuclear facilities, which is their alibi. They're going to have nukes in a couple of days. We got to hit them, you know. So they do it. The chances of them being successful is probably 99%. Israel will probably help. Netanyahu hates Iran. Netanyahu is a guy that has a high hate level. He hates a lot of people. But he hates Iran more than I think any other country. And he really wants them. And he's a mean, vindictive character. So he'll go after them. He'll join in. I mean, he'll beg America to let him join in. They'll let him join in. They won't mind. They're not going to resist it. And the nuclear, he might just do it all by himself. It's not hard. We did it once. We can do it again. But the problem that we have is we can't haul those. We can take bombs up to about 2,000 pounds. We're not really set up for heavy work like that. So it's going to have to be a joint effort. So what does Iran do if they lose their nuclear facilities? Well, Iran has to scare America and Europe and pretty much the world. If they can't scare them, they got to create extreme chaos. And the way to accomplish extreme chaos for Iran would be for Iran to attack the countries near them that make a lot of oil that really can't defend themselves. Now, I'm not talking ground invasion. I'm talking drones and missiles. Iran has basically, I don't know what you want to call these things, cargo ships that they modified into missile cruisers in a stupid ad hoc way. It's like a zip gun, you know. When I was a kid, they would rip a 22 a car antenna off the car. The car antennas used to be, you know, metal rods, and some of them had sections. Now they put little wires in the windshield, but before it was a regular antenna, and they used to hold a 22 caliber bullet. And they would take the antenna and reinforce it with, you know, heavy tape, electrical tape. We didn't have duct tape back then. They would reinforce it with tape. And then they would take it and stick it in a toy cap pistol and glue it in or solder it in. And they would take the hammer from the cap pistol that would hit the paper caps and make a noise. I don't know if they sell that stuff anymore. They would file that to a point. So they basically had a 22. If they did it right, it wouldn't blow up, you know, and then they would shoot it, and the gangs would use it, and they would kill people with it. I don't think it worked very well at all, but I mean, imagine it probably worked. It's really not going to work, but it probably did once or twice or something, you know. They called those zip guns in the old days. Today, people have much better ways of accomplishing that. So they would do that, and I don't think it ever worked, but, you know, they tried it. Anyway, that's kind of what Iran's doing, you know. They're building stupid weapons with these ships. So they take containers, like what you use to ship shoes or furniture, and they put missiles in these containers, and they load them on the ship, and they could open the container, apparently has a retractable roof, and launch a lot of missiles out of it. They have other varieties where they put missiles on the deck of the boat with launchers. So they can hit Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia, and Jordan from the Persian Gulf easily. They could also hit these countries from inside Iraq. So they'll start trying to knock out the oil refineries of these countries, and that's why there's a coalition forming. They know that. And if they knock the oil refineries out, they'll wreck the economies of Europe, America, and other countries, and scare America for the sake of their economy. Okay? Now, the other thing is the sleeper agents in America, of which there's millions. And the fact that Biden has said he's not going to run for president, combined with all the news channels saying they want Biden to resign now, and a lot of the politicians in the Congress, means to the way the Muslim terrorist nations think, and you wouldn't know this unless you live in the Middle East, they see this as severe weakness. Severe. And that means it's ripe to attack. Iran has no way of physically attacking America with a military move. Their ships wouldn't make it here. They would sink in the Atlantic. They don't have planes. They don't have missiles to reach America. There's about nothing they can do except the sleeper agents. And we've covered that many times. The Chinese have land adjacent to American military bases and so forth. China and Russia have mutual defense agreements with Iran, and North Korea is sort of buddy-buddy with Iran also. So a lot of the sleeper agents, I'm sure, are Russian, Chinese, North Korean, Iranian, various Muslim terrorists. And they will attack when these countries tell them it's time. And I could not think of a better opportunity or timing for such an attack if they decide they're going to hit Iran. They're not going to occupy Iran, they're not going to invade Iran. They're going to do airstrikes on Iran. I don't think they're going to bring a lot of Navy assets over to the Persian Gulf to missile attack Iran, because I do believe these ships would be in danger of Iran's hypersonic anti-ship missiles. I believe they've damaged American warships already in the Red Sea. The Dwight Eisenhower had to pull into port in Saudi Arabia after they said they hit it, and I believe they hit it. And the destroyer with the Eisenhower allegedly got hit. They had videos of it, and we don't hear nothing about that destroyer anymore. I don't know what that got. But they don't have to do it with ships. Now, they might bring ships in after the initial air attacks. Okay. Now, we'll look at the Bible prophecy again, which I did yesterday and last week. We'll look at it again regarding Iran getting destroyed and how damaging it really is. I'm going to take a quick look at the chat and get see if I have questions, prayer requests for a minute. They come in pairs. Feel free to do spiritual warfare against these clowns. Okay, we'll go to Jeremiah 49. These are basically Satanists that are coming in. Okay. Jeremiah 49 is just before Jeremiah 50:51, which is the destruction of America, which is going to come from the sleeper agents. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to go to the part about Elam. Jeremiah 49:35. Thus saith Jehovah of hosts, behold, I will break the bow of Elam. That means their weapons are going to be kaput. Okay? Air attacks, missile launchers, drone sites, radar, ships, warships. The chief of their might. Well, the chief of their might was killed some weeks ago, the president of Iran, who was a real bad dog. The mullah of Iran, the religious / political leader, like a caliph, is not a warrior like a general, but the president had tremendous knowledge of military tactics and maneuvers and operated in Iran for many, many years, evilly against many countries, including Israel. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. So maybe that already happened. The guy was named Risi or something. His helicopter went down. Was taken down. And upon Elam will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and I will scatter them towards all those winds, and there shall be no nation whither the outcasts of Elam shall not come. That means they're going to go into captivity, which is what they want for Israel. Elam consists of what we call southwestern Iran now, Iran, part of Iran. It's also comprised of part of Iraq and part of Syria. And those are the compatriots of Iran. Syria, Iran has troops there. Iraq, Iran has troops there. You got it? For I will cause Elam to be dismayed. Let's look at the word dismayed. to be prostrate, broken down. Okay? Busted up, you could say. Before their enemies, and before them that seek their life, and I will bring evil upon them, even my fierce anger, saith Jehovah, and I will send the sword after them until I have consumed them. Now, who is joining the coalition in the Middle East if there is a widespread attack on Israel from the Houthis or probably others? Saudi Arabia, who's not actively in the siege against Israel. Jordan, who's not actively in the siege against Israel. I could drive, I don't know, for 30 minutes or so from my house and hit the Jordan crossing and show an Israeli passport and walk into Jordan. No problem. Egypt, who's not attacking us. And the UAE, who's not attacking us. And other nations which are probably not in the Middle East. And I will set my throne in Elam. This doesn't mean that he's going to set up, that Jehovah is going to set up shop in Elam. It means from his throne he judges. Solomon sat on a throne and the people came up and he judged them. Okay, so he's going to judge Elam. And they've been after Israel since 1980 or 79, and will destroy from thence the king and the princes. With, saith Jehovah, but it shall come to pass in the latter days that I will bring again the captivity of Elam, saith the Lord. Well, they returned. Because in Gog and Magog, which is the second 70 in Daniel 9:24, Persia rises up against Israel in the Gog and Magog fight. So that's your explanation there. You got to remember, Daniel 9:24 does not say 70 weeks are determined on your people. Every Hebrew manuscript says the same thing. Shavim, 2 70-year periods. The first one was the Babylonian captivity, and the next 70-year period will start when the year of redemption begins, which is when Yeshua is going to appear in the clouds. The sign of the Son of Man, like lightning from the east to the west, seated on the right hand of power. That's when it starts. Okay. So yeah, it looks like Elam's about to get it. Now, Syria and Iraq will have to join in. What they'll do is attack the American bases. That's how they'll join in Iraq and Syria, and then they'll start getting it too. So I would say, beyond the shadow of a doubt, you're going to see Egypt, Jordan, UAE, Saudi Arabia, America, UK, and I imagine Germany. Italy helped refuel our jets when we attacked Yemen the other day, so they've got an axe to grind over there. They'll be in on it. Maybe Germany, France, although you got a gutless wonder with Macron, his country is changing. He might be in on it. He's so gutless, or I should say it, you don't know what this clown will do or not do. It's hard to say. You know, scared of his own shadow. So that's your prophecy for this. Now, what follows after this is the destruction of the daughter of Babylon, and I believe that's the way it's going to work. Now, remember they're saying Iran will have the material to build nuclear weapons in a few days. That's their alibi. They're probably going to want to do this while Biden is still in office because he has nothing to worry about. Whereas if they got Biden to resign and make Kamala Harris the president, and she would be running for president, she could get a bad rep for this war. Of course, it would look like Biden didn't want the war, but Kamala brought it on herself. So I think that could be one of Obama's material motives here, is to just leave Biden sit in the office while they try to get rid of him and run the Iran war, so it doesn't transfer the blame over to Kamala Harris. Russia's not positioned to do much of anything about this, with his hands full with NATO and Ukraine. I don't think China wants to. I don't think so. I think they're all going to want to do the sleeper agents. They're going to say, oh, we had it with America now. Their plans to control the oil supplies in the Middle East are going to fall apart if Iran gets destroyed. And it will. This has never happened, where Elam had to leave and go into all the different nations of the world. And it's going to happen. You're in the year of recompenses. And it's a happening. Well, they're coming in hot and heavy today. They don't want this message getting out, do they? Feel free to do spiritual warfare on them, report them, whatever you want to do. I don't mind. Not in the least. Okay, so let's go to Jeremiah 51. And it reads, and lest your heart faint, and you fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land. A rumor shall both come 1 year, and after that in another year. Well, there's been rumors of war and civil war and everything else in America for years. That's obvious, you know. And violence in the land. Let's look the word violence up in the Hebrew. It's Hamas. Curiously, I hate to say this in a way, it's the name of Hamas. Hamas is not Hamas, it's Hamas. Chet Mem Safed. So it's Hamas in transliteration into English. Means violence, cruelty. What does Strong say the word is? Let's see. It comes from the word 2554, violence, by implication, wrong, unjust gain, cruel, damage, false, injustice, oppressor, unrighteousness. Okay? So what is all of this? describing the American government, for since World War II. Well, it really didn't get that bad until the mid-60s. In the mid-60s, it got bad. The government of America before the mid-60s was a friendly government to the people, believe it or not. Okay? It really was. It was rather friendly. If you irritated them, like with taxes or, stupid things, they came after you, but they weren't really that gung-ho. On gun control, people had machine guns. You were able to buy guns mail order. There was no forms to fill out at the gun stores. Money, silver dollars were being used in the currency. People had them in their pockets. I mean, the money was silver, the coins were silver to a great extent, not the penny, not the nickel, but the dime, the quarter, the half dollar, and the silver dollar were dollars. The economy was rather good. Gasoline in the mid-60s was perhaps 19 cents a gallon, 20 cents a gallon. Food was cheap. Everybody had food. Housing was cheap. Cars back then you were probably able to buy a Ford or a Chevy for about $1,900, not a high level one. Like the Impala was an upper level Chevy, and then they had the lowest, the Biscayne, and then they had a Bel Air. And then on top of the Impala, they had an Impala SS, the Super Sports. So the Biscayne was the strippy, and they were probably about 1900 in the early 60s, mid-60s. And it was a full-size American car. You usually, for that money, you'd get it with a 6-cylinder, 2-barrel carburetor, and probably a stick shift on the column, and probably power steering, power brakes, AM radio, no air conditioning, cloth seats. And if you wanted to get a nice Impala with automatic and a V8, you probably were 2,800, something like that. People had a lot of convertibles back then because they were pleasant, and you didn't have to worry about people, carjacking you and killing you and all that. So people drove around even in New York City with convertibles. They were pretty common. If you really wanted a nice car, like a Cadillac convertible, Coupe de Ville convertible, you probably would be in back then for $3,500, $3,600. Life was easy. Houses were $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. Yep. That's all it cost in cheap areas. That's what houses cost. Rents would be, people in rural areas would pay $30, $40 a month rent. Car insurance would probably be at the most $10 a month. People's electric bills were probably $4 or $5 a month. Doctor visits were $5. Health insurance back then maybe $100 a year. For a person. Income tax was very, very low, and there wasn't a lot of sales tax in that many states back then. Or income tax, I should say, not sales tax, income tax. In World War II, income tax was like 2%. People used to brag that they're proud to pay income tax. Yeah, even at 5%, people would say they're proud to pay income tax, or even 10%. But it's crazy what they charge people now. You wanted a bank account, you went to a bank, you showed them your driver's license, which had no picture on it. They didn't even have photo ID. Some states had it back then with black and white pictures. probably at least 45 of the states, or 40 didn't have pictures on the licenses in the mid-60s. You just showed them your license and they opened you up a bank account. You were able to put as much money as you wanted in your bank account. They didn't care, with cash or checks or anything. And when you wanted to take your money out, you could take it out in cash. Sometimes they would tell you, we don't have that much cash. I got to order it on the armored car. If you come back tomorrow, we'll have it. So you could do that. I remember once, even in the 70s, we took 49. I was in a business with somebody, and we took $49,000 cash out of the bank. We strapped up with pistols, told them we wanted the money. They said they got to call and order an armored car. We came back the next day, got the money, put it in the car, and left. Then we opened it up in a different bank account. We didn't want to have any delay or trail. We were thinking we were going to have a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit. So I know that would work. Okay, credit cards were what did they call it? Bank America card was just starting. People had charge plates, they called them, plastic cards, for department stores like, Macy's or Saks Fifth Avenue or somewhere, Bloomingdale's. They would give you a charge card and you could charge and get a bill paid at the end of the month. Gasoline credit cards were in existence. You had a Gulf card, a Shell card, and airlines, if you were flying a lot, you could get a credit card from the airlines. And that was, so the only credit cards that really were running around were the department stores and the big stores, and the gasoline and the travel card. That was it. The Visa, MasterCard stuff, that it was not in existence really. I mean, it had just been starting, People really weren't going for it. I think by then they already had Amex and Diners Club. I think that stuff existed back then. Money was silver certificates. The paper money said silver certificate. This can be redeemed at any federal bank for silver. So you had a backed currency. It was partial fiat money. There was no drug crisis. There was no hippie crisis. The rock and roll music had not deteriorated yet. There was no gender issues to speak of. Universities were cheap. It probably would run at an average private university maybe $600 a year for tuition. Books would maybe be another $100, $150, not $40,000. Movie theaters were like 25 cents. The subway was 15 cents. Well, maybe, no, it was, I think you'd have to go back to around World War II. I think it was a nickel. But it was in the 60s, I think even in the 50s, 15 cents. It might have been a dime in World War II, I don't know, but it's still pretty cheap. Electric bills would come in at like $2, $3 a month, Food was extremely cheap. McDonald's was selling their hamburgers for 15 cents, and I think fries were 12 cents. And the hamburgers were small, so you could get 2 hamburgers and fries and a soda for probably 50, 60 cents. And that was true. If you went to luncheonettes, like F.W. Woolworth always had a luncheonette, and they always had, relatively speaking, decent luncheonette food. So you could get a reasonably good-sized hamburger with lettuce, tomato, onion on a bun with mayonnaise and ketchup and a nice amount of French fries and a Coke. Probably 60, 75 cents. It wasn't expensive. The clothing was extremely cheap, and it was good. They were selling all cotton and all wool clothing, and shoes were made out of leather, not plastic. You know, decent shoes had leather uppers, leather lining, leather heels, leather soles. And I don't know what they would be in the mid 60s, you know, maybe $10, $12 a pair. They were good shoes. If you went to the ball game, like you wanted to see the Yankees and you wanted to sit in the bleachers, I think it was 75 cents. Today it's probably $15, $20. You know. In the 70s, in the early 70s, when I was in San Francisco, I used to ride the cable car for transportation, as did many other people. And it was 25 cents. Today it's $5 for one way. It was 25 cents for one way. If you were traveling and you went to rent a motel or a hotel, you'd be paying circa $12, $15, $18 a night. Not for a great hotel. It would have a bed, it would have some furniture, a room, a bathroom, maybe a coffee maker, a telephone, a TV. That was what you got. Pretty reasonably priced. So the country was really different back then. You know, America was a peaceful place to live. Crime was relatively low. Drugs were not really anything. They were in the ghetto and they were very restricted. People were not violent towards each other. People weren't suing each other. There were very few attorneys operating in America in the 50s. The regular person would use an attorney for an auto accident, a personal injury, maybe a divorce or an adoption, and that's about it. So there wasn't a lot of money in it. The attorneys would really be working for the big corporations, and you know, there just weren't that many lawyers. It didn't really exist. There weren't that many. And life was easy. People in a lot of the smaller cities didn't lock their doors in the 50s. They just went to sleep, you know. They didn't worry about it. They didn't have this type of thing. So anyway, so in Jeremiah 51:46, violence now, the corruption and the government and making it hard on the people, that's happened. It doesn't mean necessarily that there's going to be a shooting civil war. You got to understand that. And ruler against ruler. A ruler can be a governor, a chief, somebody in a political basis. Now, you just went into ruler versus ruler. They're now saying all over the place they want Biden to resign. It's nice he's not running for president again, but they don't want to keep him in the White House. They want him to resign now. They want Biden resigning. And Biden is said so far he's not interested in resigning. He wants to continue finishing out his term. Now, I don't know how true that is. That could be a ploy that they're playing. Remember, 10 days ago or so, or 2 weeks ago, he was saying he's not going to step out of the race, but now he did. So he might be playing a game, and they don't want to shock America with him resigning, but that might be the case. And I would say their best chance at this late stage is to put Kamala in. Make her look good. In what way? Oh, say she decides she's going to save the Middle East and attack Iran, for instance. And get her like hero status with America. And then run her against Trump. Now, would it be lawful for Obama to run as Kamala Harris's vice president? Yes. He just can't be president again without a major change in Congress, but he can be her vice president. There's no prohibition in the Constitution. And if it doesn't say thou shalt not do this, thou can do it. Would Trump be able to defeat Kamala Harris, who just destroyed Iran, and save the Middle East, running with Obama? They'd slice and dice Trump. But it's a heavy lift to put a woman in the White House. So Obama might have isolated somebody else that he thinks he could sell to America. I don't know. I don't think Obama wants to do a run for vice president. He just wants to stay in the shadows and run them. But he might have to do it in his mind to take out Trump. Kamala doesn't have a prayer against Trump. Not a prayer. She would never pull it off. I don't think if Kamala had Biden as Obama as the vice president, Trump could pull it off. Because the people are going to know that he's really the president. He's just not in title the president, but he'll run the country. And they like him. That's the problem with America. They like a jerk like Obama. Destroyed the country to a decent extent. I had to check this message. America's going to get what they want. Okay. The people in Israel voted for Netanyahu, and they got him. And that's been pretty bad. So far, the pieces have been coming together the way I told you it would, and I know time is short. I'm going to break for a minute, and then I'm going to go through the calendar with you and discuss the year of recompenses, the year of redemption, with some calendar insights here. But I shall return briefly. Chief, how do I open the door? I'm not a shapeshifter. I can't go under the door. Yes. Yes. Oh, very good. Ani Yesh Rak Sahib Read. You have English? Great. Yep. Yeah, use the other one I have, 9393. Mm-hmm. 93, yeah, yeah. Okay, bye-bye. Look, let's take a look real quick. I want to... How the heck does America know Iran has a few days left to make nuclear bombs? They don't. These are underground facilities. the International Atomic Energy people, or nuclear regulatory, whatever they call it, they don't get in there. Iran doesn't let them in. How do they know that? And if Iran makes this much material, then they got to put it in a bomb casing, if these things really exist, which I doubt. Put them in a bomb casing, test it, make sure it works, and that's all going to happen in a few days. It's nonsense. They see Iran provoking a regional war in the Middle East, which is going to suppress oil for Europe and America to the advantage of Russia, Iran, China, and North Korea, and Belarus, and Venezuela and Cuba. Remember, Venezuela's in on this with them, and they have a lot of oil. And that's why they want to stop it. I don't think they're very worried about Israel one way or the other, but they'd probably like to see Israel go away. But now they have a chance to use Israel. We just attacked Yemen. So maybe they'll want us to attack Yemen while they attack Iran, because Yemen's definitely going to attack Saudi Arabia. And they want to see that not happen. If you attack Saudi Arabia, the UAE will join in, then the Houthis will attack the UAE. And that's major chunk of the Middle Eastern oil. And Kuwait's a sitting duck. And they got a lot of oil. Oman's a sitting duck. Bahrain and Qatar don't have any military. Okay. So ruler against ruler, the word against is Strong's number 5921. And it's ayin lamed, it means all, which means upon or on. Okay? So let's see how Strong throws it into English. He says it's the same as the word 5920. Okay. Which the root is top or highest. Okay, so that seems to match upon, which is close to that. And it says Strong's gives it as above, over, upon, against. So it's basically one ruler, one politico, having being against the other one, and that's what we're seeing now with them throwing Biden out of office. Not everybody wants to see Biden get thrown out of office, but some do. And then what's the next verse say? Jeremiah 51:47. Therefore, behold, the days come that I will do judgment upon the graven image of Babylon, and her whole land shall be confounded, and all her slain shall fall in the midst of her. What's the problem with this? Yes. 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 English is better. Who's this? Yes. What? Not well. Try. What is the Cartis? What is it? With what? They just called me. I told them to use the other cart. אני יש שתיים כרטיס. לא מבין. They already did. No, she called me just before. I gave her the other card. Yeah, there's two cards on file. Beseda? Bye-bye. Oh. Okay. Now it says, therefore the days come. I want to look at that in Hebrew and see what the word for days is. Let's see. I'm going to get the Hebrew Bible open. It's verse 47. It does say days in the plural. Huh. Well, I guess he's talking about getting rid of all the idols in the land, and that's probably going to take more than a day to do. Curious. So it's the attack on DC that happens suddenly in an hour and a day, and then the rest of it is, I guess, going to take more time. Our whole land shall be confounded. The word for confounded is put to shame. Not exactly confounded. Confounded is more like confusion, not put to shame. And it says the whole land will be confounded, put to shame, and her slain shall fall in the midst of her. Then the heaven and the earth and all that are therein, so it's all that are in heaven and in earth, shall sing for Babylon, for the spoilers shall come unto her from the north, saith Jehovah. Now, that could mean they enter through Alaska, then down to Canada or into America, or it could say the spoilers are coming from the north of Israel, which you could call a lot of these Arab states would be kind of northern of Israel. Hezbollah, the terrorist groups in Iraq and Iran and all that. As Babylon hath caused the slain of Israel to fall, so at Babylon shall fall the slain of all the earth. The slain. Pierced. It says all the earth, it can mean all the land. The word is eretz, it means land. It could be referencing the land of America. You that have escaped the sword, go away, stand not still. Remember Jehovah afar off, and let Jerusalem come into your mind. We are confounded because we have heard reproach. Shame hath covered our faces, for strangers are come into the sanctuaries of Jehovah's house. Now, this would be from the past. See, America's the daughter of Babylon, and original Babylon has probably the same evil spirits that they, took all the artifacts out of the temple, burned it, and all that. Wherefore, behold, the days come, saith Jehovah, that I will do judgment upon her graven images, and through all her land the wounded shall groan. Though Babylon should mount up to heaven, and though she should fortify the heights of her strength, from me shall spoilers come into her, saith the Lord. A sound of a cry cometh from Babylon, and great destruction from the land of the Chaldeans, that's America, because Jehovah hath spoiled Babel. It's the word in Hebrew is actually Babel. It means confusion. Has spoiled Babel, and destroyed out of her the great voice. When her waves do roar like great waters, a noise of their voice is uttered. Because the spoiler is come upon her, even upon Babylon. Now, the word for a spoiler is 7703 in the Hebrew Strong's number, Shaddad. And it doesn't actually mean to loot, pillage, and steal and plunder. Ravage, dead, destroy, oppress, spoil. It's more, instead of, I was focusing on them looting, that's not what they're after. It's October 7th in Israel happening in America. And what this is just killing the people. The spoiler, the locust, eats the crops, it ruins everything. They're going to just ruin everything. It's not that much that they're going to be there collecting all the wealth and riches and taking it out on boats. They're going to do some of that, but that's probably just going to be put in their backpacks. Upon Babylon, her mighty men, even upon Babylon, her mighty men are taken. Every one of their bows is broken. Well, that's probably the sleeper agents that are on the Chinese land next to the military bases, destroying the bases, the planes, everything they got, the boats. For Jehovah El of recompenses. You see, this is going to happen, I believe, in the year of recompenses. Shall surely requite. And I will make drunk her princes and her wise men, her captains and her rulers, and her mighty men, and they shall sleep a perpetual sleep and not wake, saith the King, whose name is Jehovah of hosts. Thus saith Jehovah of armies, or hosts. The host means armies. The broad walls of Babylon, that could mean also the long walls, that's the Mexican wall, shall be utterly broken, and her high gates shall be burned with fire, and the people shall labor in vain, and the folk in the fire, and they shall be weary. Wow. All right, let's go into the calendar a little bit. Let me just jump into the chat and get rid of the nasty people. Brazil, okay. I think they tax people on bank interest. Well, getting a woman in the White House would certainly be a heavy lift. Saudi Arabia cannot be possibly Mystery Babylon. It says, I mean, come on, I don't know where you get this stuff from. I'm in Israel. Switzerland, okay. All right, I'm going to do some of the calendar with you. So, I got this in my notes here. Actually, it's on Telegram. But I'm not sure I put it on my public Telegram. So I'll fish it out for you. It appears that we hit the new year February 11th. Now, there might be a day difference because I was saying this from Israel to America. One of my faithful subscribers wrote all this down. So we'll go with February 11th. That's when the year started. So that basically means that I'll use my fingers, okay? February to March is 1 month, to April, to May, to June, to July, to August. So we would be in the 6th month until around sometime in August, 11th of August roughly. Okay, and then we go into the 7th month, which is Yom Teruah, falls in the 7th month. And people are looking for Yom Teruah to be the sign of the sun in the clouds. I'm not especially looking for that. I don't think the appearing has to be tied to a feast day. Especially when 99% of the world doesn't know the correct biblical calendar, which consists of 12 months, each one 30 days, 360 days, not 365. Now, where this all comes from is on or around August 1st, 2023. It could have been the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th or something. The Lord told me this is a year of recompenses. He did not tell me this is the beginning of the year of recompenses. He said this is year of recompenses. He's very careful the way he chooses his words. So if we go with that, it could have been the beginning. So if we go with that as the beginning, which it may not be, but if we go with that as the beginning, and let's say it was August 5th, okay, then we would have to reduce it by 5 days to get in one of his years. I doubt he makes his year of recompenses and year of redemption follow the Pope Gregory's Gregorian calendar. That would be sort of stupid. I don't think he would do that. Okay, so he would use the Bible calendar. So July 31st would be the end of it, I guess, or August 1st. Now the year of vengeance is in or associated with the year of recompenses, and it's associated with the day of vengeance, the year of redemption. So it appears there's an overlap, probably of 1 day, although it could be more. Probably just the day of vengeance is in both of those years. You can glean that. There, I can do that for you. some of you may not know this. The church never even mentions these things, and they're extremely important. Isaiah 34:8. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. Well, there's a big controversy of Zion brewing in the Middle East, is there not? Okay. So now we have the day of vengeance tied to year of recompenses. And then we jump into Isaiah 63. It's a few verses down. I don't know, 4 or 5. Verse 4, I hit it. For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. It doesn't say is come, it says come. So what he's really saying is, the word for is key. Yeah, you could say for. For Yom, day, vengeance. So he's saying 4-day vengeance, and they say is in my heart, and it doesn't say that. It says lev, which means heart. So it's, well, again, let's give you the real words. 4-day vengeance, lev, heart, and the year. It doesn't say and the year, it just says Shana, year, and then it says Gal, which is redeemed. So he's saying Shana, year, Gal, redeemed, come, and the word for come is bow. So what I glean out of this is the day of vengeance is also in the year of redemption. Now we see in Isaiah 61 something like this again. This is also in the New Testament. It's I'll start with this one. The Spirit of Adonai Yehovah is upon me, because Yehovah anointed, and that word is Mashiach, by the way. It means anointed. It's not Yeshua's last name, okay? So it's saying the Lord Mashiach anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek, and he has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them. Those are the people in the pit, the Israelites that God blinded their eyes and stopped up their ears, lest they turn to him and be healed. So the 2,000-year punishment in Hosea 6:1 and 2 would be fulfilled. And that's who Yeshua preached to, the prisoners of hope, for those 3 days when he went down, okay? And you could see this again in Zechariah 9, perhaps I show you that too. Some of you may not know these things, because the church certainly doesn't teach it. 9:11, as for thee also by the blood of thy covenant. Well, when there's the circumcision, there's blood. When there's the animal sacrifices and offerings, there's blood. The blood of thy covenant I have sent forth thy prisoners out of the pit wherein is no water. Turn you to the stronghold, that's redeemed Israel. You prisoners of hope, even today do I declare that I will render double unto you. Okay, so they get a double portion. So these are the dry bones in Ezekiel 37 that come back to Israel. They have cartilage and bones and flesh, and puts the spirit in them, and they come back to Israel. Now I know that's shocking to many, because you don't read the Old Testament, and I'm sorry about that, and I'm sorry that the church has been so evil to so many people, but I try to undo it as best as I can. So now we're in Isaiah 61:2, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. Now, the word for acceptable is ratzon, and let's see how Storms puts this. delightful year, favored year, pleasured year. So he's probably speaking of the year of redemption, which is like a Yovel or a Jubilee year. Okay? And the day of vengeance. So you see, now we got the day of vengeance in the year of redemption of our God to comfort all that mourn. The ones that are mourning are the ones in Zechariah 12, after they see the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds, to appoint unto them that mourn in Zion, to give unto them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, and the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of Jehovah. Reminds us of the two olive trees. It should, anyway. It should. That he might be glorified. And they shall build the old wastes. I couldn't help this. And they shall build the old wastes. They shall raise up the former desolations. And they shall repair the waste cities, the desolations of many generations. So this is not describing current modern day destruction, is it? No. And we could keep going. All right, so Ezekiel 25 has something else in there. I forgot what verse it is, though. Let me see if we can scan it real quick. Church doesn't even want you to know there's a year of recompenses, because who's going to get recompensed but them and their buddies? And a year of redemption, which they're not going to participate in. I want to check something. We just got some insights into Lebanon, kids. All right. Trying to find the verse in 25, Ezekiel. I lost the verse. It said something about Tyre getting destroyed, which is Lebanon. Maybe I was in 26 when I read that. Hold on. Yeah, it was. Okay, hold on. We got something good here. Let's go to Ezekiel 26, verse 1. And it came to pass in the 11th year, in the first day of the month, that the word of Jehovah came upon me, saying, Son of man, because that Tyrus had said against Jerusalem, Aha, she is broken that was the gates of the people, she is turned unto me, I shall be replenished, now she is laid waste. The Tyrus is Lebanon. It's in Lebanon. Okay. I think they might be calling it Tyre today, Tyre, or it could be Tyrus, but it's in Lebanon. Therefore, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, Behold, I am against thee, O Tyrus, and will cause many nations to come up against thee, as the sea causes his waves to come up. And they shall destroy thy walls, the walls of Tyrus, and break down her towers. I will also scrape her dust off her, the dust from her, and make her like the top of a rock. It shall be a place for the spreading of nets in the midst of the sea. For I have spoken it, saith Adonai Jehovah, and it shall become a spoil to the heathen. And her daughters which are in the field shall be slain by the sword, and they shall know that I am Jehovah. For thus saith Adonai Jehovah, Behold, I will bring upon Tyrus Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon, and king of kings, from the north, with horses and with chariots and with horsemen and company of much people. He shall slay with the sword thy daughters. And this could have been fulfilled. Either it's referencing this king of Babylon, this Nebuchadrezzar in Jeremiah 50:51, meaning the president of America, or it was fulfilled in the past. But it says from the north, so it probably was fulfilled in the past, I think. Okay, it looked good for a while, but Lebanon's still going to get it in other scriptures, we know that. King David is not literally King David. It's David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne. You're coming up with church doctrines here every day. I'm starting to wonder why you do that. Well, what say you? Well, if you don't. It's amazing how many people Satan's thrown at us, isn't it? Phenomenal. Don't let them bother you. They're mostly children, as I see it. So what we're looking at is Israel's going to do more attacks on Yemen, rest assured, and the coalition is getting ready to knock down missiles that are not going to be coming from the Houthis so much, but as from Iran. They're afraid Iran's going to do another attack on Israel. See, if there was no Israel, the Houthis and Hamas would be directed towards who? Along with the Houthis. They would be directed towards Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Oman, UAE, maybe Egypt, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait. That's why they don't want to see that happen. Iran's not going to just tell the Houthis and Hezbollah and Hamas and the militias in Iraq and Syria, well, you did a good job. You got rid of Israel. So just sit tight and we'll keep paying you every month because we like you and you're loyal and you're as crazy as we are, and don't worry about it. Have a good time, No, they're just going to continue marching on their way to break America. See, China would rather break America internally from within, so would Russia rather than attack it. But they've got the sleeper agents to do that. Let's take a look at Yom Teruah. Feast of Trumpets, I think, in English. It's Leviticus 23:23. They don't tell you what Leviticus is, but you could just about call it the book of the Levites. And Jehovah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, in the first day of the month, shall you have a Shabbat, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, ram's horns. Shall you have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of the ram's horn, a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work. You shall offer an offering made by fire. Well, that could certainly line up with Zechariah 12:6, an offering by fire of the heathen surrounding Israel, but that wouldn't be in the context of providing Jehovah an offering. That doesn't line up at all. Not to me. Dead heathen as an offering to Jehovah? I don't think so. In the Ezekiel 39, he offers the dead heathen as an offering to the birds and the beasts. I don't think so. Doesn't sound like it to me. Okay. On the 10th day of the 7th month, then you have Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur was used to announce that there would be a Jubilee year coming. I don't see any real heavy significance. Correct me if you're wrong, send me emails or whatever, that you feel that Yom Teruah would be the day when Yeshua's going to appear in the clouds. Maybe it's because it talks about a trumpet. It's off the calendar by a few days, kids. That's the only thing I could say. So, we'll see. All right, so I do have a prayer request that I overlooked, but I caught it in time. For J.G., Jack Girl, J.G., the initials J and G, Jack Girl. Or we would say Jack Gloria, I guess better, or John Gloria, anyway. Pray for a good job. Pray for a good job, which would involve no work on Sabbath. For J.G. John Gloria. Okay. I think I told you they shut the GPS off in Iran. Now, I don't know who did it. I got it at the words came jammed. So it probably was done against Iran's wishes. The Houthis have announced they're going to go terrific, terrible after Israel with no rules, no red lines or anything, right? We just destroyed one of their major cities and they're telling us how they're going to destroy it. So, okay. So I say all eyes on what happens with the sleeper agents, what happens with Iran, and just remember, how the heck do they know Iran is a few days away from nuclear bombs? They have to get the nuclear material, then make a bomb, and then see if it works. And nobody has these things. If they did, they would have used them. And America knows that. There's no nukes. They're just using it as an excuse to attack Iran. They're scared of the Middle East falling to Iran and Russia and China and North Korea, and them strangling the rest of the world for gasoline, choking them on high prices and breaking their economies. And this is what the fear is. And now Biden has nothing to lose by a loss of popularity because he does the war. But it's pointless to think like that because he's not running anymore for office. Thinking. All right, I guess I accomplished what I was looking to accomplish today. You got my email address at the top of the chat, at the bottom of the description box. You could send questions to me, prayer requests, toast requests. The offering information's in the top of it's pinned at the top of the chat. It's also in the description box down under the video, so please pray for me and my wife Rivka. Oh, Yafa's, I'd say, back to 100%. Thank you for the prayers. We had a tragic thing last night. It was really weird. In the evening, you know, my wife does bird rescue. She helps rehabilitate parrots. So she got a call from one of the people in the group, a vet. There was an 8-month-old African gray that was in bad shape. The owner waited way too long. The bird was sick, the baby bird was sick for weeks and weeks. And the vet didn't think the bird was going to live. Asked my wife to try. Now my wife, with the help of our prayers, has brought back birds more than once. 2 I know of, like 3 I think, that were close to dead, by rehabilitating the bird in our prayers. So this bird came last night, and I just started praying for the bird, and my wife said that he was in the house a few minutes, and she said he just had a seizure and died. So before we had a chance to kick into gear and get the prayers out, he passed away. So that's a shame. See, there's Israelis that love animals, and they spoil them. They love them. And there's a lot of Israelis that have animals and are mean to them. I don't want to tell you stories, they're too upset. But this one probably didn't want to spend the money on the vet, and just kept waiting and waiting, and then when it was imminent, the bird was going to pass, went to the vet. And one of their tricks is they leave the animal with the vet, which is normally going to happen when the animal's very sick, and they don't pay the vet because they don't know what the bill is, and if the animal dies, they just stiff the vet. They don't pay. They're very bad. I won't tell you the stories, they're painful. So there wasn't anything we could do to help this little guy. So he was basically dying when he got to the house, I guess. So didn't work. It's a shame. But we have saved some. So anyway, Yaf is kicking just about, I'd say not just about normal. Not almost normal. So thank you for the prayers. So please pray for me and my wife Rivka for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing, our finances. We got some packages en route to us. Please pray that they get here before the storm hits, before things blow up here. Pray we get our packages, and pray for better videos. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And what else? You can send me emails asking me to do Bible studies and cover certain points and topics. And if they're tied to the prophecies of Israel and related to the type of things we're looking at, I'll certainly do it. Or I'll try to do it and try to work it in. It's up to the Lord. Oh. Please pray for cooler weather in our area. 97 today. I mean, it's just horrible. Thank God we got electric and air conditioning. You know. So, by the way, understand that this thing that's going to go down on Iran is going to affect Yemen and Lebanon. This coalition is probably going to help us with Lebanon and Yemen. Lebanon's already, or the Hezbollah in Lebanon is already attacking us for what we did to Yemen, so it's going to get it. Hamas can do very little of anything. There's not much left of that. It's going down history, memory lane. See, the nations realize Iran without her proxies is going to do nothing. Iran thinks by using proxies we're not going to attack the homeland. They're wrong. Netanyahu is supposed to go to America on Wednesday. Let's see if he still goes. He might go over there to make the plans for the attack on Iran. That might be one of the things going down. I'm not so sure he'll meet with Biden anymore. He might. I am pretty sure he's going to meet with Trump, but not Biden. He might, I don't know. So he might be going over there to make war plans on Iran. That might be it. Well, that's what I got. So I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And I am out. Let's see. 2.5 hours. That's a little long.